And join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Well, welcome back, everyone. I have almost given up hope of seeing people outside the virtual world again, but it's nice to be present together with the board and staff and the public as well. With that, let me just proceed to a roll call, please.
Chair West.
Yes.
Director Ramirez. I'm here. Director Mobley.
Here.
Director Tremblay. Here. Director Borchert.
Here.
Agenda review, any changes to the agenda?
No changes, Chair.
All right. This time is an opportunity for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board on items not otherwise on today's agenda, welcome to step up to the podium, identify yourself, and
My name is David Gomez. I represent the Strickland Mutual Water Company in El Rio, California. I am here to speak about the wastewater that is coming off the farmlands in our area. Bob Jones Ranch is adjacent to our neighborhood. They withdraw their water from the same aquifers that our company does. We have 2 wells. I have a video of the water running off their property, going down Vineyard, and I'm saying hundreds, if not thousands of gallons of water go down the street. And I see here your name is Foxwater Groundwater Management Agency. I ask that you look into this and see why they are wasting water. Let them raise their crops, but not waste the water that we get, that we need for our drinking water. Thank you.
My name is Charlotte Craven, and I am here almost 2 years since my term on your board ended. And at that meeting, I wasn't at that meeting, I was in Washington, D.C., lobbying for the military bases with a group called RDP 21, the Regional Defense Partnership. But at that meeting, you presented our city manager, our assistant city manager. We were changing people fast then, I don't know which he was, but he brought me this, and I wanted to officially thank you. I had intended to come to the next meeting, but you Zoomed the next meeting and the next one and the next one, and here we are almost 2 years later. So I saved this opportunity to come and tell you in person. Thank you for the recognition. Until I read this, I had no idea that I'd either been an alternate or a board member for 18 years. Time flies when you're having fun. I learned a lot in those years, in those 18 years, about water and groundwater. And I also learned that there were a lot of views about water that were not what the cities had, and I represented the 5 cities. We all learned we did a lot of work. We approved a basin plan, we approved the groundwater management plan, and then it was time for me to leave. But I enjoyed especially the 12 years I was a board member. I think one of the most important things we did during my time on the board was hire the county or contract with the county to do administrative work for us and to do all of the staff work for us. And at that time, we insisted that Jeff be the one that be here. And I think that was a good decision. I think the county has done a very good job for the Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Agency. I do remember that Jeff had a whole head full of black hair at that time. So it's been a while. But at any rate, I don't miss having to race back from board meetings to get to the council meetings and hope the highway patrol was not out right then. I also remember a lot of meetings where I had to stay because what we were doing was more important than the topics that were going to be discussed at my council meeting. But all in all, I appreciate all of the cooperation and the respect and the diligence that every one of the board members showed all of the time I was on the board. So thank you for this certificate of recognition.
Thank you, Charlotte. And we, as much as we appreciate you sending Director Tremblay to us when you left, we miss you. And always welcome to have you back.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether it's appropriate for me just to ask the speaker whether that's a point of personal privilege to what you just said, but I would like to just offer a couple of comments. Trying to fill Charlotte Craven's shoes on this board is tough. They are huge shoes to fill. I don't think in the last 2 years I've gotten anywhere near what you've been able to do, and I really appreciate your service to the GMA and your service to the city of Camarillo. Many of you may not know that this is Charlotte's last term as our city council member. She is my current mayor. She typically sits where Jean is sitting right now. And in fact, she will be sitting there at 4 o'clock this afternoon when we start our city council meeting. But Charlotte, you have served with such distinction on both GMA board as well as on city council. And I just want you to know how much I appreciate it and look up to you. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'll also add my thanks to Ms. Craven for her service to our community. Thank you, congratulations.
Thank you. Okay, moving on next. Henry, will you put the mic?
Yes, thank you, Chair West and members of the board. My name is Henry Gromlich. I'm Assistant General Manager for Cayugas Municipal Water District. Cayugas Municipal Water District supplies imported water to a portion of the GMA and the areas of Simi Valley, Thousand Oaks, and that general area of the county. It's a member agency of Metropolitan Water District, and we are almost entirely dependent upon state water project deliveries. And I wanted to take this opportunity just to give you an update on the supply situation for the state water project, and also tell you what we're doing and solicit your interest and cooperation and pledge our continued work with you as we go through this. So what we anticipate is that given the dry conditions in the state, that on December 1st, the Department of Water Resources will announce a state water project allocation of 0%. And how is that? Is that better? Okay, thank you. Yeah, so on December 1st, it's anticipated that the Department of Water Resources will announce a state water project allocation of 0%. And that sounds like no water. What it essentially means is that there will be no Table A water available from the state water project going into next year. Now, we're early in the water year, and as the hydrology develops, there may be sufficient water in order to have a state water project, but certainly in terms of public perception, a zero state water project allocation sounds like zero, right? Sounds like nothing. In response to that, Department of Water Resources in October asked Metropolitan and other state water project contractors to do an analysis on what their health and safety needs would be. And the state requested that that be based on 55 gallons per capita per day. And we're currently at about 136 gallons per capita per day in the Cayugas service area. So this would be a dramatic reduction in the amount of water available to meet demands. We also had the governor's action most recently last week, in which he extended the drought emergency to Ventura County and to all of California. And as part of that, he called on local agencies to look to mutual aid, and also for water suppliers to begin to implement their water contingency plans, water supply contingency plans. We anticipate that on November 9th, Metropolitan Water District is going to adopt a resolution that will essentially mirror the governor's proclamation, and the Cayugas Municipal Water District's board will also be considering an emergency declaration. So where does that leave us? Well, we know from the last drought, and the state, I think, has understood that one size doesn't fit all, and that there should be deference to local agencies in terms of finding what is most fitting for them. And certainly we have a lot of diversity in Ventura County, as well as we have diversity within the Cayugas service area. We have agencies that have invested money in alternative supplies, and some agencies that are almost entirely dependent on Cayugas for its water supply. What we anticipate is that we will be looking at calling for some targeted level of conservation going into next year. There are sufficient reserve supplies to begin next year. Every amount that is conserved will act to lengthen that amount of time that those reserves supply us and forestall the need to go to that health and safety cutback. And so we'll be looking to work with our purveyors. We understand our purveyors are situated in different ways in terms of their mix of reliance on imported water and groundwater. But one of the things that I guess is a lesson that I've learned, and I began my water career right as the city of Ventura declared its water shortage emergency in 1990. And the observation that I make is that with every drought, we emerge on the other side of the drought and some ties are strengthened and some ties are frayed. And so when you go into a drought, you should be thinking carefully about what ties. Everyone wants to know where the city hall is, right? When you start to cut back water. So some ties will be strengthened and some ties will be strained. And it's the hope of Cayugas that we will go into and emerge from this drought in a way in which we provide information for those who are most affected by it and emerge from it with those ties strengthened. And I was just talking to Jeff. I know that our general manager gave a briefing to Jeff, I think yesterday, right? And 2 days ago. 2 hours. And, it's our hope that even in this time of difficulty, that we are going to be able to identify opportunities that will also bring benefit in terms of increased cooperation. So with that, that ends my prepared remarks. If it's appropriate, Chair West, I'd be willing to answer any questions. Perfect. Okay. Thank you very much for your attention.
All right, any other public comments? Then we'll move to board member comments and just comment if there are comments in response, this would be the appropriate time.
Mr. Chair, I forgot the most important thing. I wanted to invite all of you to the ribbon cutting for the North Pleasant Valley desalter on November 30th at 9 o'clock, just about at the corner, northwest corner of Lewis Road and Las Posas Roads.
Thank you. All right, with board member comments, let me just start first by thanking the, Charlotte, don't run out yet. I want to thank you. I want to thank your city council and your city manager for allowing us to hold our meeting here today. The Government Center in Ventura is still closed for all practical purposes, and we appreciate the opportunity to get out and have this meeting here. Thank you very much for accommodating us. Beyond that, I guess my only other comment with respect to the Department of Water Resources, Henry, if there's a message you can take back, it's that What I've heard from them thus far is inimical to the development of local water resources, and that their contemplated plan punishes the development of local water resources, and if that's where they wind up, their plan will fail. It's not only bad policy, but I don't think they'll get any compliance. To the extent that they want to impose a restriction on water use that goes beyond state water supply, but also basically limits the local resource that water agencies can use despite their investment. I think they're creating a problem not only now, but for the future, because why would anybody ever invest in a water project or water independence if they're only going to be punished for it later? And that's exactly what the department seems to be considering. I know they haven't decided anything yet. And if that's the case, there'll be no compliance. Those are my comments. Sure.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Actually, I was going to ask the question of Mr. Gromlich, but I'll just indicate, not with respect to DWR, but I had understood anecdotally that on November 9, Metropolitan would be considering a resolution to allow only for health and safety use of water, potable water on a health and safety basis in a residential household, which would exclude irrigation. Real property irrigation, and I was curious as to whether or not I had understood that correctly. So it goes to part of what Mr. Gomlich was speaking about, and I'm not clear on what that resolution that Metropolitan is going to be considering, and I suppose that I could look it up on the website, but I do have a real concern, obviously, about what Metropolitan apparently, the Metropolitan Board apparently is going to be considering. And I guess my other comment is, Henry, I really appreciate you coming here today. What I would request is that Cayugas and Metropolitan do everything in their power now to start getting the word out to folks, because I will tell you that probably 97 or 90, I meet with people all the time in this city, and I would think that in the high 90 percentile have no idea what is being discussed right now relative to water conservation or rationing or however you want to term it. And I think Cayugas and Metropolitan need to get some messaging out and need to do it yesterday. So thank you.
All right, okay, thank you, there you are. I appreciate the technical help, Chair and Tony. Anyway, as a county supervisor representing an area of El Rio, Nyland, and Strickland, I wanted to thank Mr. Gomez for coming, but also just let you know that last evening, I convened a meeting with Lynn Rodriguez of the County Watershed Coalition, I'm not sure I've got that name right, to provide information to the mutual water companies in the area of ability to seek funding from the state drought funding bill in the amount of, it's many, many millions of dollars. And our community really needs it to upgrade their infrastructure, of their wells, and there's a lot of possibility for the mutuals to get help. And you could contact me if you would like more information. We'll put you in touch with others who have more technical information. A lot of it is targeted for the disadvantaged communities, and that's the situation for El Rio, Nyland, and Strickland. But there are other communities in Ventura County that may be eligible for that funding. So something that we do need to pay attention to so we can keep providing quality water and quantity water to the extent possible despite the drought. Thank you.
Chair West? Since we don't have a future agenda item on our agenda, I'll do it here. I'd like to request staff put on a time certain on the January regular board meeting, which we don't have a date set yet for January, but the January regular board meeting, a time certain 30-minute presentation by United Water Conservation District on projects, the work they've been doing the last 2.5+ years on projects, mainly for the Oxnard Pleasant Valley Basin, Oxnard Plains, to give the board a progress report on what's been going on and all the work and all the progress that's been happening. So it's certainly a great news message. You know, they haven't been resting on their laurels. They've been hard at it, and the board really needs to be brought up to speed. We're not starting at zero. We're way, way past that, and the board needs to, I think, get up to speed with what the status of those projects are, because we're going full steam ahead. When I say we, I'm meaning United. So if we could get that on the agenda, 30 minutes, and my preference would be to have the meeting at the United Water headquarters in Oxnard. It would be easier for staff. It'd be a great place to have a meeting, and we are open right now, and we'll be open then. So if we could plan on having it at the headquarters in Oxnard, that'd be great. So that's it.
Any other board comments? If not, then we'll move on to the consent agenda. There are 2 items on the consent agenda. Unless someone has a question or a comment, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Do we don't need a roll call?
Excuse me?
No? Okay.
Yeah, we don't need a roll call because we're actually here. We would need it if we were online. All right, moving on then to agenda item number 3, Resolution 2020-05, Reserve Fee Annual Review.
Good afternoon. Is it working?
It is.
Good. Good afternoon, Chair West, members of the board. For the record, I'm Kim Loeb, Fox Canyon staff. Good. So, just for a little background, your board approved this resolution 2020-05 at the October 2020 board meeting to impose a $20 acre-foot fee to replenish our GEMS fund as a legal reserve. The fee became effective on January 1st of 2021. And small domestic pumpers extracting 2 acre-feet or less are exempt. And the resolution states that the fee is to sunset on October 1st, 2024, unless the board takes some specific action to either terminate it before then or to extend it. The resolution also requires a 12-month review of the status of the fee, where the board can make directions as to whether to make changes to the fee or whatever direction the board might have to staff regarding the fee. And this is the first annual review of that fee since it was adopted and implemented last year. So when it was adopted in 2020, the revenue projections showed that the GEMS fund would remain in deficit through the 22-23 fiscal year, towards the end of that year. Since adoption, there's been 2 additional lawsuits filed in which Fox Canyon's been named as a defendant. The lawsuit by the Oxnard Pleasant Valley Coalition seeking adjudication of the basin included challenges to the allocation ordinance and the groundwater sustainability plan, and the Los Postos Valley Water Rights Coalition lawsuit challenging the allocation ordinance in that basin. So we now have a total of 5 active lawsuits. Staff has updated the projected legal expenses prepared in consultation with special counsel and county counsel acting as our agency counsel, and then looked at the revenue and GEMS cash flow projections. Those are in your package. I do have the copies of the tables here. So Table 1 shows the legal expense projections, including last year actuals, the current fiscal year of 21-22, and then for the following 4 years out as best we know them right now. Obviously, the legal situation is fluid, and this doesn't include any potential appeals if there should be appeals in the future. This is the cash flow analysis that's in your package. It shows the projected revenue from the $20 an acre foot charge, and then the legal charges from the other table, and then the running balance for the GEMS. And as you see, it still is projected to be in deficit through 22-23, and then become flush again in 23-24. So the expense projections have changed a bit, but overall in the big picture, by year, it's looking similar. So that concludes my prepared remarks. Staff recommends that your board continue the fee as it is at the $22 per acre foot, review again next year in October, and if there should be any significant change to these projections, then staff would return to your board before that time to advise you accordingly.
Thank you, Cam. Any questions or comments from the board before we open it up to the public? All right. Any public comment? Anyone wishing to anyone have a question or have a comment they wish to make with respect to this item? All right, hearing none, then we'll come back to the board. I guess any discussion on the fee review? I certainly think the staff's recommendation is appropriate. The need is there, at least for the time being. Hopefully, the need goes away sooner rather than later, but we're not there yet. So and I don't see a need to revise the GEMS fee at this point. Any other thoughts?
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure we're being asked to take any specific action. It's more like it sounds to me like it's more like a receive and file, plus ask staff to bring this back again at this time next year.
I think, well, that's just it. I think it's basically direction to the staff to make the report. Does it remain in place, or do we want to come back and have it changed?
And if you need a motion to do that, I'm happy to offer that as a motion. So
I couldn't hear you.
if you need that as a motion, I'm happy to make that as a motion if you feel.
I don't know that we need this as a motion. I just basically need direction from staff, and is there a direction to staff, apart from maintaining the status quo and bringing it back in a year or sooner if things change, any other direction anyone thinks is appropriate to give to staff at this time? Yes.
I would just like to hear Mr. Pratt's comment on this, if he has anything.
I have nothing to add. We stand by that recommendation, and we'll be back to you in a hurry if things take a turn for the worse.
Thank you.
Thank you. That'll be the direction then. Let's move on to item number 4, an update on revised groundwater modeling.
Good afternoon again, Chair West and members of the board. For the record again, Kim Loeb, Fox Canyon staff. And so you recall that we've talked about discharges of treated effluent from the city of Simi Valley's treatment plant are an important source of recharge to the East Las Posas management area of the Las Posas Valley. The city, at the time of our GSP preparation, the city had plans to divert up to 5,200 acre-feet of that water to a recycled water program over a period of time, and that's how the projections were adopted into the forecasting for the groundwater sustainability plan. The city's updated groundwater or urban water management plan, released in spring of this year, indicated the city was no longer looking to pursue recycling that water and diverting it from the discharge to the arroyo. At the July board meeting, your board directed staff to evaluate the impact in the future sustainability forecasts for leaving that water coming into the basin, and then based on that information, prepare an amendment to the GSP. Staff working with DUDEC has conducted numerical groundwater modeling using the model that was developed by Cayugas Municipal Water District for the East Las Posas management area. That's the model that was used for the groundwater sustainability plan modeling. And based on the updated modeling, without reducing those flows, the sustainable yield projections for the future are 19,000 acre-feet a year, plus or minus 2,300. That's the same uncertainty factors in the GSP. That's approximately 1,200 acre-feet a year higher than the estimate in the GSP of 17,800 acre-feet a year. So that's concludes my prepared remarks on that.
Kim, that's an analysis of the water from the treatment plant. Was there any analysis done, or do we have data sufficient to do an analysis with respect to the inflows from the CME dewatering wells?
The inflows from the CME dewatering well, since CME was not planning to divert that water, there's no change from the projections in the GSP. Now, of recent, since we've been in these low rainfall years, the water levels have been lower in Simi Valley, and they have not been pumping very much. But over time, those discharges, especially in a series of wet years, can be significant.
And that analysis is already included in the GSP?
That analysis is already included in the GSP. That's exactly right.
Thank you. Again, any other questions, comments from the board before we invite the public? All right, with that, then, let me ask any members of the public who have a question or a comment with respect to this item to please step forward and be heard. All right, hearing none, let me turn it back to the board. This is just a receive and file. Yes,
I do have
please.
a question. Thank you, Mr. Loeb. When might that additional 1,200 acre-feet be flowing and available?
Director Ramirez, these are future projections over the 50-year planning horizon, and those are available now. The city of Simi continues those discharges. They had been planning to reduce them over time on a stepwise basis and divert them to be used in Simi Valley, but they've abandoned those plans. So for now, they're continuing on.
So the water is in the system?
The water is in the system. The water is flowing down the arroyo. That's correct.
Thank you.
Chair, I suppose the board, I think most of the board may be aware of this, but the issue with that 1,200, Board Member Ramirez, is that in theory, Simi could do what they did one time before, which is make a deal with somebody else for that water and divert it toward them. So we have begun discussions with them about trying to lock it up for the GMA, and they're very open to them, and they do realize the bigger benefit of the GMA obtaining that water rather than private individual, and we'll know more early next year.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, this is just a receive and file. We will do so, and that concludes the regular agenda. With that, then, we are adjourned to closed session. Thank you all.